Greetings, geeks and nerds, and ladies universe and mighty nerdy. And I think it's due time that I talk about and review an anime that I kind of had on the table for a while. And if you follow me on Twitter, you've seen a picture of it. But yes, I'm going to be talking about a kind of underrated series, Drifters, which, in case for some of you people that don't know, is very much created by Kouta Hirano. And if you know Kouta Hirano, you'd know that he made Hellsing. I'm gonna have to go back and revisit Hellsing for some lazy ween, maybe this year. But we're gonna check out this kind of unique, interesting concept of a series, which is only known as drifters. So before I answer your question of what is a drifter, first we need to talk about what this series is and kind of what the premise behind the whole series is. So, let's talk about some drifters. So, drifters begin with the samurai in the 11th century of Japan, but get taken down a whole bunch of bad guys, one right behind the other, in a bloody contest. This is the samurai Shimatsu Toyohisa of the Toyohisa tribe, who is basically taking down enemy after enemy and bathing his sword in his enemy's blood. However, while on the battlefield, Shimatsu gets injured, and very badly so. But instead of going to hell or heaven, he goes someplace else. He wanders into an office of a man, and mysteriously, yes, he is a part now of the Drifters organization. And alongside Oda Nobunaga, and as well as Notsu no Nuishi, he is up for the challenge to become a part of a Drifter. Yes, as you might have noticed, this series is definitely very bloody and graphically gory. And also the heroes are technically not exactly heroes, especially for using Oda Nobunaga, who, as far as my history corrects me, was a very demented man. And he'd done some very questionable things. But still, this begs the question that this is a very small team. Technically, there is another member, but I'll get to her later on. The one that Nobunaga just relentlessly picks on for his own reasons. But we must answer one question. What is a drifter? According to this anime series, a drifter is a person grabbed from history, whether they be famous or infamous, and it's put onto a team to protect the fantasy world. Yes, I think I forgot to mention somewhere, especially on the back of the DVD, I forgot to mention somewhere that the part of this has to deal with in a fantasy setting. Because right as soon as the first episode begins, when Shimatsu gets teleported to meet Nobunaga and Yoichi, he gets picked up by a group of elves. So yes, this is people being dragged from history and being put in a fantasy setting. And if you don't think that idea works, you'd be wrong, because this anime has a pretty unique way of getting it done. It is unique combining fantasy with fiction. I mean, a bunch of other places have done it too. But mostly, it's kind of interesting that this series would end up doing so. And as I said, this series had to do a lot with comparing and contrasting between live action or fiction combined with non-fiction work, which it does pretty great. But this series had to do a lot with a lot of dark subject matters, and especially it's made very, very apparent in only the second episode. See, Shimatsu comes to the rescue of the elves that really need his help. But instead of just letting the elves do, well, whatever that the elves do, he gives them an alteration. The alteration is, they can either let this man live and always have him be torturing them, or to kill him and forever be free. Guess which one they choose. But the fantasy and live action segments are actually pretty damn decent, and I rate the people that they showed in throughout history to be either part of Drifters or part of another group called The End. The End are another part of Drifters, but these ones aren't necessarily the heroes of this team, they're considered the villains. And they choose some various good people to really use as either heroes or villains. Like, for example, they use Billy the Kid. They use, like, I think it's Plato or it's Socrates. They use a kamikaze pilot from World War II, whether he was part of the Pearl Harbor bombing or not. The series never says, and I think that's for the better. For the villains, they end up using a lot of interesting ones, but the one that really stood out to me is Joan of Arc. The Holy Crusade, Joan of Arc. The woman that was declared kind of a boy because she had her hair short. She was considered a witch. She was burned at the stake for some weird reason. And because of this, Kouta Hirano kind of looked at that and went, I see. What if instead I give her fire powers? That's not a joke. He actually gives Joan of Arc fucking fire powers for some reason. But it's a very interesting concept, and it's just that they're not being brought through history. It's that the person behind this, the one that wears glasses at the desk, his name I forget, he goes up against a young woman who's named Escape, for some reason, and they both go up against one another, and, well, as you'd expect, they make bets with each other on who would be on my team and who will be on your team. Depends on who picks them up and plucks them out of history and puts them into this fantasy zone. It is a very interesting concept. It's a very interesting setting. But above all, if anyone's gonna watch this series, just know that aside from the blood and gore, there are some really other dark episodes. One I'm going to kind of skip over, even though there is no graphic things or anything, but to protect people who might have gone through this. There is an episode where Shimatsu decides that they're going to go save the female elves from their captors. When they get there, the female elves have been used for sex. So as you'd imagine, they're technically sex slaves, and they have been raped and beaten. Rightfully so, that Nobunaga and also Shimatsu see to their deaths, but that's just part of what you can expect when you get into this series. So like I said before, there is another character that is involved with this team. Her name is only Minu, but Nobu gives her a different name. Nobunaga calls her Olimi Boobs, and I'll give you a hint as to why he calls her Olimi Boobs. Take a gander at why Nobunaga calls her Olimi Boobs. I can't think of any specific reason why he would call her by that name. No reason at all. But the series does get you involved in the characters. You actually will begin to like them and actually kind of relate yourself to them in a lot of unique ways, but that's more for the better. Sure, a lot of the heroes in this are actually enemies, but besides the point, you actually will begin to actually kind of like some of these characters. But everything about this series is so damn interesting. The fight scene, the voice acting, everything just speaks so much volume of Kouta Hirano. It is so difficult to not compare this to Guts or Berserk, and you can definitely see a drawing comparison to compare this to Berserk. Especially when it comes to the fantasy stuff, but also kind of combined with fiction stuff. It's very hard not to notice that there must have been some inspiration from Berserk. No, Kouta Hirano did not steal from Berserk. The only reason why I bring it up is because there might be someone in the comment section who says, hey, this kind of seems similar to Berserk. And as someone who's only seen a few episodes of Berserk and also a few reviews, the comparison is there, that it's basically fiction, or non-fiction actually, I'm sorry, non-fiction, but put in a fantasy/fiction realm. It's very easy to compare this, especially with drifters, which is putting people from basically history and putting them into a fictional/fantasy setting to really make it work. And I think that Kouta Hirano is made all the more better for it. But at the end of the day, does this even equal up or measure up to Hellsing? Well, I'm sorry to say that while I do like drifters, and even though I haven't seen Hellsing Ultimate yet or Hellsing Unlimited, I gotta say my choice still goes with Hellsing. Maybe because it's better character written, and maybe because it's better voice acted and stuff. Nothing against drifters, it's just that if I had one Kouta Hirano choice between the two that I own, it definitely would be Hellsing. Again, I'll have to revisit Hellsing and review it again, maybe for Lazy Wing. But suffice to say that, depending on his work, he also did a zombie work, which I haven't heard much out from that. I think it doesn't have a anime form, but instead just a manga form. But it still goes without saying that Kouta Hirano is a very genius when it comes to creating stuff. Drifters is not Hellsing, but it feels like a fresh start to be away from the Hellsing formula. To get into drifters is all just a matter of preference. Whether you like this sort of thing or you stay away from this sort of thing, you should try to give drifters a chance. While some people would probably say that yes, Hellsing or Hellsing Ultimate is a lot better than this series, you should still give it a recommendation and still give it a try, even if you can. If you're a casual fan or you're a big fan of Kouta Hirano, you might be interested in checking out Drifters. It's a pretty damn good and interesting anime series worth checking out. Yeah, I know that this anime might not be for everybody and anybody, but it does just take a few preferences just to get used to, so it has my zero recommendation if you can find it. Why don't we travel back to the past with the samurais that can really kick ass and check out an underrated anime series known only as Drifters? You might have a hell of a good time. Not to sound like a broken record to any of you guys, but Drifters really is a recommended and assorted taste. It might not be for everybody, and it definitely depends on where you can find this and definitely pick it up. But in terms of Kouta Hirano works, you have Hellsing Ultimate, his zombie series. I don't know the name of it, but I don't know if it had made animation form. I remember hearing about it being a manga form, but I don't know exactly about anime form. But if I did have to pick between the two, I'm sorry to say that while Drifters is a pretty damn good anime, it unfortunately is only 12 episodes long. So as you'd expect, by the end of the last basically 3 episodes, they try to tie everything up as quickly as possible, but leaving it on a cliffhanger for people to check out another series. Which is kind of the cheapest and nonsensical thing that this anime can do. Though to be fair, I think that the better series is probably Hellsing. No, I haven't seen Hellsing Ultimate yet, and we probably will be able to at some point, but it really does seem that Hellsing is the better written of the series. It really seems like Kouta Hirano was trying to broaden his horizon, trying something new, but as a man that basically really does appreciate the realms of horror, he should have stayed with Hellsing. So it depends on your pick. I still would recommend checking out Drifters, though, especially if you're a big fan of Hellsing or Hellsing Ultimate. So thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Click that bell icon to be notified every single time that I make an upload. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. I believe Universe, I believe Nerdy. Keep geeking on, and until next time, guys, take care, and check out Drifters if you can. And until next time.